Well, I'm getting a late start Saturday morning, and I'm at the Piazza Testaccio, and going to take a walk around this neighborhood. Let's explore this Testaccio market. It's quite big. Gotta live life, you gotta live life. Testaccio, long a working class neighborhood, has become trendy. This area near the river in Testaccio was where these slaughterhouses used to be, Mattatoio. They were decommissioned in 1975, and today they house exhibitions of contemporary art, I think, mostly. Well, I'm not going to get too much out of this. It's whatever this exhibit is, it's all in Italian. But it sure beats what this place used to be, a horrific concentration camp for animals. I guess those are corrals where the poor creatures were led. Well, I thought I would get off the metro here at the Teatro dell'Opera, at the opera. Just check that out. I'm at the Piazza della Repubblica, and in the distance down the Via Nazionale is the monument to Victor Emanuele. And this Naiad fountain is quite impressive. And beyond it are the baths of Diocletian. The Via Viminale, which I remember from the famous film by Vittorio De Sica, Ladri di Bicicletti, bicycle thief. I've reached it. There's the Opera House. Nice to take a tour of that. All right, no tours until next week, so that's out. This evening, a performance of Richard Strauss's Ariadne auf Naxos, and I certainly have way too much stuff to see to consider something like that. All right. Okay, I found the Church of Santa Maria della Vittoria, where I was in 1971. All right, the Church of Santa Maria della Vittoria is not open for another hour, so I'm on the Piazza di San Bernardo. Behind me is the Fountain of Moses. This fountain dates to the late 1500s. Next to it is the Santa Maria della Vittoria, where I'll come back to. And then we have this, one of the very first Baroque facades, around 1600, the Church of Santa Susanna. Look how the columns pop out, and look at the curved scrolls on the side. That's Baroque. And then on the other side is the Church of San Bernardino, which was incorporated into the Baths of Diocletian, and that's the reason it's round. This intersection has 4 fountains of river gods dating from the 16th century. These 4 river gods are relaxing at this busy intersection. there in the distance is the spire of Santa Maria Maggiore. But we're going to go this way to the Piazza Quirinale. This little park has a statue which says 1814 to 2014. I'm not sure what it is. I'll have to look it up later. And I did look it up later by submitting this image to the Google search engine. The bronze statue depicts two carabinieri in a storm. The carabinieri are the national military police of Italy, and these two are draped in cloaks and leaning against the heavy wind of a storm. The statue was inaugurated here in 2014 and marks the first centenary of the Carabinieri. The monument is actually a reproduction of the famous statue by a Florentine artist made in 1973. In 2014, when this statue was erected, the woke movement, along with Black Lives Matter, was gaining traction in the United States. I have a feeling that a statue such as this, which pays tribute to the heroic service of the police, would not only not have been erected in the United States then, but any existing ones would have been torn down. Next we come to the Church of Sant Andrea al Quirinale, designed by Bernini. Maybe I can go inside. St. Andrew is being crucified. He gazes up toward the light where his soul is about to rise. A bronze angel extends his hand toward the image. Gilded bronze, angels and cherubs beckon him upwards. And finally, he bursts through the pediment, riding on a cloud, into the dome of heaven. The beautiful dome bathes the altar with light. Although the altar was designed by Bernini, the sculpted angels and the painting were done by other artists. This church was built in 1661 and is referred to as the Pearl of the Baroque. But though you won't see pearls, you'll see lots of marble and gold. And that's the church 55 years ago. King Carlo Alberto of Savoy. A bronze statue from, I believe, 1900. I'm standing on the Piazza del Quirinale, which is the highest piazza, the highest hill in Rome. And this is the Palazzo Quirinale, where the president stays. And those three flags are for Italy, Europe, and the president, since he must be here now. And this obelisk and gigantic statues are very ancient, I think from the 3rd century. The building on the left is a late Baroque palace that today serves as the seat of the Constitutional Court of Italy. And that's the picture I shot of it in 1971. I tell you, I saw everything back then. The giant statues depict Castor and Pollux, twin gods of Roman mythology and patrons of horse riders, here taming wild horses. Apparently, the changing of the guard ceremony takes place every afternoon.
I'm ready to go in and see a masterpiece.
Members of the wealthy Cornaro family look down from their box on St. Theresa's vision of religious ecstasy, as captured in marble by Gian Lorenzo Bernini. In her vision, she encounters an angel who thrusts a long spear of gold into her heart, leaving her on fire with a great love of God. It made her moan, she said, and she could not wish to be rid of it. When the French writer Charles de Brosse saw the statue in the 18th century, he said, "Well, if that's divine love, I know all about it." In any case, I think Bernini was a rascal. In the summer of 1971, it was difficult for me to find this church, and when I did, someone had to let me in through a side door.
Right, I've made it to the Piazza del Popolo. And boy, is it mobbed with people.
This piazza lies inside the northern gate of the old Roman walls. Before the age of railroads, a traveler would arrive here for his first view of Rome. The Carabinieri barracks were built 2 centuries ago, and I am about to climb the monumental staircase at its north end.
Oh God, I'm climbing up all these stairs to get to this terrace overlooking the Piazza del Popolo, and Christ, I'm feeling like an old man. Well, I guess I made it.
Guarda che vogliamo via. Dobbiamo via.
Ella sta senza mano, magari no! Io ci ho cazzo!
L'ho pagato. L'ho pagato e poi è stato accettare a lei che
Una persona? Dove?
In the distance, beyond the Fountain of Neptune, the Via del Corso stretches all the way to the Capitoline Hill.
I'm getting hungry and tired. I'm gonna wander away.
I think we're at the top of the Via del Corso. And that's the Piazza Venezia, way in the distance.
I wonder what this place would look like in the summertime when it really gets crowded.
The Via Margutta has very elegant, artsy shops, though this one has a tire in the middle of the room. And this is the Fontana degli Artisti, the Fountain of the Artists, restored in 2016, it says, on this famous street treasured by artists. So in that direction is the Spanish Steps, and in the other direction is the Piazza del Popolo.
Behind me is the Academy of Santa Cecilia, Music Academy. I would say that if you're looking to kind of have some peace and quiet and get away from people and have some time to reflect on things by yourself, don't come here.
Behind me is a fountain, I guess created in the Mussolini era, showing the winged victory figures holding bundles of sticks known as fasces. And over there is the mausoleum of Augustus. This apparently is the only white building in Rome and is the site of the Arapacis Memorial. We're walking along the River Tevere. There it is. And see this without actually going inside this monument. So this building was erected in 2006 to house this altar of peace, which was built by the Emperor Augustus in the 1st century BC. And unfortunately, it was a monument where animals were sacrificed to celebrate human peace. Right, I found a place to sit, and right in front of the mausoleum of Augustus, and I'm going to have a sumptuous meal right now. I've got salmon with vegetables, carciofi, trifalati, vegetarian, something, and a juice with no added sugar. All right. Got off that tiny bus. Creme. We're standing only. Jesus. There are way more people trying to get on these buses and trams than there are, even though they run all the time. It's absolutely daunting. I've reached the Piazza Venezia, and now I need to catch a tram, which will take me to Trastevere. And from there, I'll walk to my hotel in Testaccio, I guess. Well, I made it to Trastevere, and apparently it's about a 10-minute walk back to my hotel in Testaccio from here. Boy, do I rely on the GPS. Well, it's Sunday morning, and I have spent 5 nights in this room. I have 2 more to go. I've been counting down the days till I get out of here. I am able to get my sleep with the help of some sleeping pills. The trash is overflowing. I need to buy some more trash bags. And another problem with this bathroom is there's a sign that says do not throw anything in the toilet, including toilet paper. So that means your used toilet paper has to go into this tiny bin, or maybe that tiny bin. You better not be a big person, or you're going to have a problem with this shower. Well, all right. So Sunday morning, I'm going to do as the Romans do and go to this celebrated flea market, Porta Portese, named after this ancient gate, and it is the largest flea market in Rome, and I believe in all of Italy, with over 1,000 stalls. I don't have any cash on me, so I probably won't be buying anything, but I'll take a look at it. Well, it's on and on for I think about a mile.
Yes.
Italian leather.
Sì, ok.
And this stuff is only €1.
Bello, not right. Why?
Sì, esatto.
Oh, that would be nice for Carlos. And I don't have any change. Only €1.
Che lei lavavo, no? Li lavavo.
All right, I've had enough. I am going to see some real culture. Well, I'm at the Termini train station, and I still have some memories from 1971, sitting on the other side on a very pleasant morning having a Coke. And I think that a lot of that stuff isn't here now. This is just a big open place. And that's the Termini station in 1971. I'm happy it's still there. And speaking of that summer of 1971, I'll share a very personal memory. I met a beautiful young American woman also traveling in Italy with whom I had an exciting, romantic encounter. But for whatever reasons, this relationship only lasted a couple of days, leaving me with only a memory. And many years later, I still had this slide upon which I had written her name. And recently, with great curiosity, I searched the internet to discover what had happened to her. There were a few details I discovered, such as her later marriage, and her Facebook page displayed a photo of her 50 years later. Even at age 70, she was still an attractive woman, though I would not have recognized her if I had passed her on the street. And alas, I also learned that she had passed away a couple of years ago. So there you have it, a life with a future that ran its course. It's haunting, isn't it?
Well, I'm sitting in front of the Opera House, and I'm going to have my first meal of the day before heading to the National Museum of Rome.
So, quite a bit to eat here.
I've just entered the National Museum of Rome, and we have busts, sculptures of heads from the 1st century BC. Caligula. That is a statue of Augustus. This bronze statue shows a boxer at rest after a fight from the 1st century BC. This Roman replica of Socrates dates from the 1st century AD, though he, that is Socrates, lived in around 400 BC. Vespasian. His son. Aphrodite crouching. Discabolo.
And yes, I saw the sculpture in 1971.
Hermaphrodito. That is Vespasian.
Another great museum in Rome is the Capitoline complex, but I did not have time to visit it. But I was there in 1971, where I saw this ancient Roman bronze statue of a boy pulling a thorn out of his foot, and where I also saw this head from the colossal statue of the Emperor Constantine from the 4th century. And from the 5th century BC, this bronze statue of a she-wolf, a symbol of Rome's mythological origins. The suckling twins, Romulus and Remus, were added during the Renaissance. And this sculpture of a dying Gaul made a powerful impression on me.
I'm in front of the Santa Maria Maggiore, a very old church with a newer Baroque facade.
It seems that when I was here 56 years ago, I saw just about everything. The layout here is that of a simple basilica with a spacious central nave flanked by aisles. The marble columns predate the church and probably came from an ancient Roman building. And the unique coffered ceiling is gilded in gold brought from the New World by Columbus. Beneath the altar is a glass reliquary which allegedly contains pieces of wood from the manger, that is, Jesus' crib. A marble statue of Pope Pius IX depicts him praying before it. He's the one who established the dogma of the Immaculate Conception. John Lorenzo Bernini, who brought honor to art and the city, here humbly rests. Pope Sixtus V commissioned this chapel in which his tomb is located. He died in 1590, and it was during his 5-year reign that the Dome of St. Peter's was completed. This accomplishment is memorialized here, where we see 4 angels supporting a gilded model of Michelangelo's dome. And at the side of the chapel, a statue depicts the Pope in the act of prayer. Sixtus V, Supreme Pontiff. One can climb to the top of this dome, though I did not. What music could give a more unimpeachably moral stamp to their cause than a song by an Afro-American woman? It seems that despite the different languages, all the nations of the West are converging to a common culture.
Come on, sing.
So I have climbed to the top of the Aventine Hill to look through a tiny keyhole, and so have all these other people. The keyhole is in a doorway to the priory of the Knights of Malta, that is a monastery. These monks were a medieval order of crusaders and are still in existence today.
Noch. Das werde ich ja noch einmal essen. Die Pizza will ich auf jeden Fall noch mal essen.
Probably another 30 minutes.
Well, I've been waiting about 45 minutes, almost there.
right, finally here. Let's see this keyhole. And there it is.
Well, I finally done a lot of walking and reached the Basilica of San Clemente. I have a ticket I bought online, and I hope it doesn't rain again because it looks a little threatening up there.
This basilica dates to the 12th century, but remarkably, one can visit two lower-level churches that date back to ancient Rome. So this is the old 12th century church on the ground level. And the choir here of carved marble is encased in particle board, I guess to prevent damage from all the construction. And then the apse back here has mosaics that depict the tree of life. With doves and sheep. The anchor represents the way that St. Clement died by being attached to an axe and thrown into the river, I believe in the 1st century AD. In this church is the St. Catherine Chapel, which has early 1400 Renaissance paintings that are considered early masterpieces of the Renaissance. The paintings tell the story of the martyrdom of St. Catherine. In the left panel, Catherine of Alexandria debates with pagan Roman scholars about the benefits of Christianity, ticking off these benefits with her fingers in front of the Emperor Maxentius. In the adjacent panel, Maxentius, who has sentenced her to death, looks down from his balcony to observe her being torn apart by two spiked wheels. But she is suddenly saved by an angel that swoops down and cuts her loose with a sword. Meanwhile, the emperor's wife, who has converted to Christianity, is executed by decapitation. And Catherine is also executed, as we see depicted here, as she kneels beneath the executioner's sword. Finally, her body is carried away by two angels. The right-hand wall depicts scenes from the life of St. Ambrose, Bishop of Milan. The mural of the crucifixion, painted around 1430, is noteworthy for its use of perspective and emotional storytelling. The mural of St. Christopher, the patron saint of travelers, was probably painted by the great early Renaissance master Masaccio, and now it's covered in glass. And now we descend to a lower level at a more ancient area. And this area, excavated in the 1990s, was called the Secretarium or Sacristy of the Lower Basilica. It was, built in the 6th century. Now we have descended to the 4th century early Christian church, and this was the narthex, the atrium. All of this was excavated a couple centuries ago, I believe. The early Pope, St. Clement, is faded but still visible in this late 11th century fresco. The fresco illustrates the so-called miracle of the Black Sea. The Romans bound Clement to an anchor and threw him into the sea as a revenge for his missionary work. Various types of fish are depicted. According to the story, an underwater tomb was built by angels for Clement. At some later time, a child was swept into the sea and a year later was miraculously found alive near the tomb. The fresco conveys the joy of the mother at finding her child alive. Opposite the fresco is a slab that once marked a Roman pagan grave in the 4th century and was later reversed, recycled, and used for a Christian burial. To Suarus resting in peace, erected by his brother Eutychianus. On the other side, the earlier pagan epitaph reads, "To the departed spirits, Marcus Aurelius Sabinus, also called the Little Rover, a most beloved child whose way of life outshone by far the young men of his own rank and age." This is a 9th century fresco of the Ascension. Perhaps the best known fresco in this lower basilica is this one from the 11th century, which tells the story of the Roman nobleman Sicinius. Clement is conducting a secret mass in his basilica. In attendance is Theodora, a Roman noblewoman, but her husband Sicinius had secretly followed her into the church, and as a pagan he should not have been present at the sacred mystery of the Mass. As a result, he was struck blind and deaf, and servants had to lead him out of the church. Following this, out of pity, Clement prayed for Sicinius, and Sicinius' sight was restored. But rather than being grateful, Sicinius concluded that Clement had cast a spell on him and ordered his servants to take him prisoner. And then, by a miracle, the servants mistook a column lying on the ground for Clement, tied it up, and under Sicinius' command tried to drag it away. And just like as in a cartoon a character's words are in a balloon, an inscription informs us of what he yelled to these servants. "Fili delle pute, traitor! Sons of whores, pull!" This inscription is famous because it is one of the earliest examples of the transition from Latin to written Italian. Those were the original columns supporting the church. And this is the presumed burial place of Saint Cyrus, who introduced the Cyrillic alphabet to the Slavic lands and died in the late 900s. This is a modern mosaic of him. Excuse me, he died in the late 800s. And now to descend to the 2nd century AD temple of Mithras. It's a stucco coiffured ceiling. The Mithraeum was a temple for the worshippers of Mithras. Like Christianity, it was a cult imported from the East. The temples were designed to be secretive, underground, and cave-like. The central hall of the sanctuary was flanked by 2 long benches where the worshippers, all male, would have sat. At the back of the altar stood a small stone statue of the god Mithra. In front of this is the altar's main relief, which depicts Mithra slaying a bull, and above him are two torchbearers.
And this would have been a Mithraic schoolroom or Sunday school room. Now, these were the lanes of an old first century Roman neighborhood where people lived. Surprised they haven't been developed into high-end studio apartments. I would think that the cabin I'll be sleeping in tomorrow night on the ship will be smaller than this room.
This is another building from the first century, built during the reign of Vespasian around 70 AD, and is separate from the Mithraic area. There is a suggestion that it was used as a mint. The building was constructed of large tufa blocks and provides the foundation for the 4th century and 12th century basilicas above it.
All right, guess it's time to exit. All right, I've reached St. Giovanni in Laterano, and I feel it's starting to rain again, so let's see if I can get inside.
I apologize to those of you who are getting bored with all these churches, but hey, this is Rome. The basilica, originally built in the 4th century, is the largest basilica in the Western world and served as the model for all future churches, including St. Peter's. It is the official cathedral of the Pope, the Bishop of Rome, and is the supreme Catholic church in the world.
This was the first Christian church in Rome from the 4th century, but very little of that old church survives. The floor, the marble floors, medieval. The ceiling is Renaissance, but most of the rest of it is Baroque and designed by Bernini. Statues of the apostles line the nave, and above the apostles are carved reliefs on the left side from the Old Testament. And that is Noah escaping the flood, or escaping the whale. And from the New Testament is Jesus escaping death.
Above the main altar is a Gothic 14th century baldacchino. Above the canopy, in what looks like a cage, are two silver statues of Saints Paul and Peter. And two precious relics are located here, although they're not visible, the alleged heads of Peter and Paul. Although the original church dates to the 4th century, most of what is seen today was rebuilt by the architect Francesco Bernini in the 1600s. but the gilded and wooden ceiling is pretty much the original. Behind the altar, the apse has a famous mosaic. It dates from the 13th century but recreates a 5th century original. Below the face of Christ is the dove of the Spirit, and below that is a jeweled cross turning into water for a baptism. At the base of the cross is the Arabian phoenix, a medieval symbol of immortality. Also at the base of the cross is a heavenly mountain from which 4 rivers flow and from which 2 deer and other animals drink and thus draw life from the Trinity revealed in the cross. On the left, Our Lady intercedes for the kneeling Pope, who is followed by a small figure of St. Francis and the Saints Peter and Paul. And on the right is the Baptist, followed by the smaller figure of St. Anthony and accompanied by Saints Andrew and John. And since this church is the Cathedral of Rome, it has the cathedra or chair where the Bishop of Rome, namely the Pope, will sit.
These golden columns apparently date from the Temple of Jupiter around 50 BC.
We're exiting the church,
And that is the Emperor Constantine. These green bronze doors were brought here in 1650 and were the original doors to the Senate, the Curia of ancient Rome. They're the Scala Santa, the Holy Stairs. Let's take a look. All right, well, I didn't climb the actual stairs, just the stairway on the side up to where you can peer through a grate to see the, I don't know what, this holy shrine. But to be honest with you, I don't have a spiritual cell in my body, and this stuff is, I suppose, of some interest historically and artistically, and that's where it ends for me. And next to where these stairs are is this remnant of the aqueduct. So it's my last dinner in Rome. A lot of chicken there. I have reached the Basilica of Santa Prassede. Let's see if I can get in.
And for those of you who are satiated with all this Christian art, I swear by all that's holy that this will be the last church I will show you. Okay, this church was completed in the early 9th century. It stands on a site that had previously had a church that dated from around the year 400. The 3 large naves are separated by ancient columns and pillars and are flooded with light streaming in through the windows. The 8 large frescoes were painted around 1600 by several artists and illustrate the Passion of Christ. The high altar is framed by porphyry columns supporting an elaborate roof and dates to around 1730 and contrasts with the much more ancient decor surrounding it. But what makes this church special are its mosaics, done in the early 800s by Byzantine artists using techniques inherited from ancient Rome. The mosaic tiles in the apse depict scenes from the book of the Apocalypse. Suspended in a sky of blue, Christ has commanded Peter to spread the word. Peter asks for help with an upturned palm. Next to him is Pudentia, a woman who had taken Peter in when he was being persecuted. To her left is Saint Zeno. To Christ's right, we see Praxedes, the sister of Pudentia, whose house was located on this spot and for whom the church is named. Next to her is Pope Paschal I, who had the church built in the early 800s in honor of the two sisters. He is in fact holding a model of this church, and the square halo around his head indicates that he was still alive at the time this mosaic was done. He and Santa Prassede are being escorted by Paul. Notice the hand of God coming through the clouds to crown Christ. Above that is the monogram of Pope Paschal, and above that, the Lamb of God. This side chapel was built by Pope Paschal as a funerary chapel for his mother, Theodora. Its mosaics are perfectly preserved. In the niche of the altar, we see Mary and the child Jesus flanked by the sisters Praxedes and Pudentia. Chapel of St. Zeno. And I don't have coins to light it up. During my entire trip, I only used a credit card and never carried cash, but cash would have been valuable to illuminate a site such as this. That is the ceiling. Christ the Pantocrator is flanked by the two sisters, Prassede and Pudentiana, Agnes, and Theodora, the mother of the Pope to whom this chapel was dedicated. This chapel is dedicated to San Giovanni Gualberto, who founded a monastic religious order in 1038. But the paintings and mosaics were done in the 1930s. And now, as my week in this city comes to an end, I want to acknowledge the value I derived from Rick Steves' guidebook, which helped me to decide on the sites worth seeing during my limited time here.
Well, it's Tuesday morning. It's the morning I've been waiting for when I'm checking out of this miserable room. And it's about a little bit after 9 o'clock, and I have a journey to get to Civitavecchia and then from there to the ship. So I'm going to pick up my suitcase and get out. All right, after I finish my coffee. Here it is. I've got on the bus that's taking me from the Civitavecchia station directly to the Luna ship. All right, it's a beautiful sunny day out there, and I finally got through the long process of going through the terminal, and I am about to board the Luna. All right, I'm on board. All right, there's my room number. Let's give it a shot. Aha. All right. All right. So I finally made it. A 1 week in Purgatorio in Rome, and now for 2 weeks, hopefully in Paradiso. Wow. Let's see what we've got here. Hey, that's a great, big shower. That's nice. That looks comfortable. And the amazing thing is that this is the very first cruise of this ship, so I will be the first person to sleep in this bed.
And I don't think I'll be getting any bed bugs on this voyage. All right. I've taken my shower, I've changed my clothes, and guess where I'm going now? I am going to the buffet. Well, life is difficult with so many choices. All right, I'm about to have my first meal on the ship. I am hungry. And on this note, I will say goodbye to Rome, Civitavecchia, and those of you who have managed to watch this to this point. Stay tuned for my next video taken of this cruise to Miami.